Hey everyone, how's it going today? And welcome back to another update. So today I really want to take a little bit of a revisit once again to talk a little bit about the fourth stimulus checks. But there's going to be a little bit of a change, which is the fact that there are now, as some of you guys may or may not know, but will know now, several states that have essentially now decided to come out in order to do their own individual state stimulus. And a lot of these programs, we are talking about approved programs. So repeat again is that these are all programs that are currently happening right now. But what we haven't really shared as much is pretty much about which states are these. So in today's update is I really just want to talk about which states currently have some kind of fourth stimulus check, and then also about who these or what groups of people can actually physically qualify for these checks. Because right now, at the end of the day, I believe is that all of these checks, they're expected to go out to probably about a little bit over 1 million people. So this is not just like a small local town in the middle of nowhere kind of checks. Like, these are actually checks that are going to about over 1 million people. And I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing is that if it involves money inside of our pockets, that's probably the most important thing that hopefully we all can agree that we all pretty much just care about. So with that being said, we're going to get started, but as always, 10 seconds, the same exact rule as always, consider smashing the like button because we are at least talking about something good that's going to hopefully be happening. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell for similar videos and other finance topics. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts, or opinions, or maybe anything that, if you guys had anything to particularly share about, honestly, just really anything. So with that being said, let's get this video started. So we're just going to talk through about all of the individual states. And so the first state that we're really going to start with is going to be in the state of Maine, which has officially approved their own individual stimulus check by Governor Mills, who is the governor there, hoping to send out $285 to about 500,000 residents. And again, keep in mind, this is actually just one state, and it's not necessarily even one of the biggest states, so that is a lot of people that are potentially going to be getting a surprise check inside of their bank accounts. They started this program right around the middle of November, I believe specifically about November 15th, and they're hoping to do it ongoing until the very, very end of this year. So the great news is that it actually literally just started about like 2 weeks ago, and there's still essentially one more month for them to continue sending out these payments. I believe that the requirements for this one is to really just be either having an income of $75,000 or less for individuals, or $150,000 or less for married couples. So it definitely has a much looser requirement, which is really, really great news, which means that a lot of people can potentially qualify for it. Now, the next state that we're going to be talking about is going to be the Golden State, which is literally golden, is because it's going to be the state of California. So, as most of you guys know, but just to put it out there, is that California was probably the state of all of the states that approved the most number of stimulus checks, in the sense that they approved their Golden State stimulus check, they approved a Golden State stimulus check too. So in other words, many people in California have either already received or will be receiving in total 5 stimulus checks. There is also one check that I don't think a lot of people are talking about right now. We did make a video about it, but it's essentially talking about unemployment stimulus checks for past unemployment applicants. If this sounds relatively confusing, I'll put a video at the very, very end of the screen that talks all about what that specific check is. At the end screen, there'll probably be 4 videos, and I'll probably put it at the bottom left so you guys can kind of see it at the very, very end. But the idea is that to this day, there are still many, many people that are waiting for their checks, and the idea is that according to our representatives there, is that they did mention is that they're hoping to send the final wave of the Golden State stimulus around the very, very end of this year. And the amount of money ranges from about $500 to $1,100 depending on the size of your family. So that is actually something that is actually quite a lot of money that hopefully can be relative relief during a time of much need. I believe in order to get this stimulus check, what's nice is that you also don't even have to have a social security number as long as you have an ITIN. So it's either one or the other. And so it definitely opens up eligibility to hopefully a lot more people. Now, the next state that we're going to be talking about is going to be in the state of Maryland. So the great news is that if you happen to be in Maryland, they're hoping to send a $500 stimulus check for families and then a $300 stimulus check for individuals. The only thing to note about this stimulus check is that in Maryland, they did take the requirements to be a little bit lower. I don't remember the exact income specifics, and it's really specifically because in Maryland, there's a little bit of like a scale. It's a little bit confusing, but there's basically a scale. If you were to look at the Maryland government website, it will show you the exact requirements. But I believe for an individual, it's right around like 15 to 20,000. So it definitely has a much smaller cap. But I do believe is that if like for people that genuinely really need it, they should be able to qualify for it. And I think that's definitely the hopeful thing about it. And then the next couple of checks that we're going to talk about actually applies to 3 specific states, and it's going to be in the state of Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee. All of these 3 states are hoping to do something called an education stimulus check. So what this is that essentially if you are someone who is an education worker, especially if you happen to be a teacher, but even if you happen to say, for example, be a principal, from anything from pre-kindergarten, so pre-K, all the way up to the 12th grade, they're hoping to send people there a $1,000 stimulus check, really to kind of just make it up for a lot of the teachers that had to work throughout the pandemic. I do believe in Florida, and I guess this is one that also is a lot less talked about, is that they are doing something. Now, this is something that has been spreading around from word of mouth, but because it's so subtly low-key, it hasn't fully been confirmed yet, and because it is relatively recent, but there has been word of mouth that has been speculating that in Florida, they're hoping to essentially send a $5,000 stimulus check for anyone who happens to be a cop in order to relocate to Florida if you are relocating specifically from either New York, Minneapolis, or Seattle. Now, why did they choose these specific areas? That's a really great question, but it's just what they've communicated. But it is something that's probably one of the much more larger stimulus checks. However, it is a very niche demographic, obviously, because it applies to just cops that want to move to a new state. But nonetheless, it is happening, and I figured to just might as well share it. Now, the next state that we're going to talk about is going to be in Michigan. Great news is that Michigan is also doing a stimulus check for education workers, but I believe that their check is going to apply for about $500. So it's a little bit less than the other states that we talked about, but nonetheless, the same exact story. It's a $500 stimulus check to people that work in the education industry. And then the last 2 states that we're really going to be talking about is going to be in New Hampshire. Now, New Hampshire, what's really nice is that they're doing a $1,086, so $1,086 stimulus check. It's a very specific number, but it's just the number that they gave to essentially anyone that happens to be a family of 3 or more people. If every single person in that family by chance happens to be unemployed, or even if it's just basically not fully employed, they're going to be doing a stimulus check for that. And then the last state that we're going to be talking about is going to pretty much just be in New Mexico, which is doing a $750 stimulus check to low-income households. So that one's a little bit more straightforward. So those are pretty much all of the states that we're going to be covering in today's update. I believe it came out to probably about 9 states, so that's basically about 18% of the country, which is a lot of people. But beyond this is that's what I really just wanted to share in today's update. Hopefully, if we do get more information, we'll definitely be able to share it. Consider subscribing if you guys are interested. Of course, you guys can always decide. And as always, consider smashing the like button if you guys made it this far and hopefully found it insightful, that we're either going to be getting a check or hopefully at least know that we have other fellow Americans that will hopefully at least also start to get some level of relief as well. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay safe, stay well. Feel free to comment questions, thoughts, opinions about honesty, or any particular information about anything, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.